Hello everyone, welcome back to day 7 of the 7 days 7 projects challenge. Today we're going to be putting everything together that we have learned so far. As you can see at the top, I have a header, and then I have a background image for the showcase that doesn't scroll, so the parallax effect, as you can see. And then for section 2, I'm just going to place blog post, which we did on our second day, I think, and then our newsletter section with the email that doesn't automatically submit. And then we have another image for the parallax effect to enhance it, and then finally we have the footer. So to get started, I just have my images here. This is an image I got from pexels.com, as well as this and as well as this. You can use any image that you want. And then in my index.html, you might have noticed I placed this. This is just to give me a bearing of what I want to do. So I want to have the image background, and you'll see the numbering. I think the numbering is wrong, but actually this is how I want to do it. So we're going to put the image background, then the parallax effect, then the menu toggle, then the blog post, the newsletter, and finally the footer. And this is Font Awesome that I've just linked here. So if you want to follow along, you will grab Font Awesome so that I can substitute the social links right there. Okay. And then I have an empty main.js file where I can just place some code to prevent the default action of refreshing the page when you submit the form. And then finally I have an empty style.css. So let's get started. I'm just going to place that side by side and move it to the edge like that. And then let's see, I'm going to generate a boilerplate just at the bottom. I'm going to say emmet like that. I'm going to link my style sheet, style.css, and then I'm going to link my script file called main.js like that. I'm going to change this title to day 7 of 7 days challenge like that. Then say putting it all together like that. Okay, so what I want to do now is have a header with the class of header like that, and then I'm going to say let's have a navbar with a class of navbar like that, which has an unordered list, and the list has list items that are 5, and then we have anchor tags inside like that, and then you can say this is guides, this is contacts, this will be blog, and this will be about, and finally this will be home like that. And then below the header we're going to have a section with a class of showcase like that. And then inside this section I'm going to have a div with a class of overlay, so I can add this background color of white that you see right there. And then I'm going to have an h1 saying putting it all together like that. And then I'm just going to have a paragraph and generate some lorem, let me say 10 like that. And then this will be it for the showcase class. Let me add a comment and say showcase. To add a comment as fast as you can just use control and / like that. It's much easier. And then below that we're going to have a section 2, so I'm going to call it blog posts like that, and I'm going to say section dash blog posts like that. And then I'm going to have an h2 saying visit our blog like that. And then I'm going to have divs inside with the class of cards like that, which will be the actual blog posts. So I'm going to say I want to create another div which will have an h4 saying just lorem2 like that. Sorry, let me mute my phone. And then below this I'm going to have a paragraph, just say lorem50 like that. And then below this paragraph let me just have an unordered list with the list items, 3 of them, and I'm just going to say add a font awesome class of class FAB and FA-Facebook like that. I'm going to grab this, copy it down, change this to Twitter like that, grab this and change this to Instagram like that, and let me remember to link my font awesome. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to place it below this like that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this 3 more times. So up to there I'm going to grab it, I'm going to copy it another and then another time, separate this so that it doesn't confuse me. And then let's see, this is the blog post, so we need our newsletter section. Am I correct? Okay, so I'm going to say another comment and say newsletter like that. I'm going to create a section with the class of newsletter like that, and I'm going to say I want an H3 saying subscribe to our newsletter like that, and I'm going to have a form inside with a class of form with no action, and then I'm going to say an ID of form so I can grab it in the JavaScript, and then I'm going to have an input with the class of not class but with the type of email like that, with the name of email and an ID of email with placeholder text saying enter your email address like that, and I'm going to set it to required, and then I'm going to have a button with the type of submit, and then this button just says subscribe like that, subscribe. Okay, below this I'm going to have a small text saying no spam, unsubscribe at any time like that. And then below this newsletter, what do I want to have next? I'm going to have a section, let me just check this, another section that has this background color, not the background color but the background image. Okay, so let me say this is what sections? This is 1, 2, the blog post, and 3, so this is section 4 like that. And I'm going to create a section with the class of section -4, and I'm going to have an H2 saying do welcome back. I think I'm going to change this text appropriately with the images that I'm going to have, because I'm not going to be using these images. Then I'm going to have a paragraph saying lorem 20, and then we're going to create finally the footer like that. So footer, the class of footer, and I'm going to have a URL with LIs that let me say 3, and I'm going to have anchor tags inside. Let me just copy this from that, so hashtag all of them, and I'm going to say home, I'm going to say more information, and then blog. Then I'm just going to grab this and copy it down. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to change this to guides, change this to posts, change this to privacy policy, change this to newsletter, change this to terms, and I'm going to say and ampersand like that. This will place an ampersand symbol, as you can see for this. So terms and conditions like that. And then for this I'm going to say Twitter. Actually, I don't want to do that. I want to place a font or some icons. I'm going to say I and FAB and FA dash Twitter like that, and I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to paste it inside here. Change this to YouTube, change this to Facebook, and change this to Instagram like that. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to open it with the live server so we can see what we have, and then we can begin styling it appropriately like that. And you can see it looks very horrible. It looks horrible, but yeah, we can work with that. So in our style CSS, I'm going to reset everything. I'm going to say margin of 0, padding of 0, box sizing of border box like that, and then I'm going to say for my UL I don't want the bullets, I'm going to say list style type none, and for my anchor tags I don't want the undernames, I'm going to say text decoration none, and then for my images I want them to take up 100% of the width, so I'm going to say max width 100%. And then what next, I'm going to say for the body I'm going to using a font family called Lucida, like that, and I'm going to have a background color by default on the body of F1, which is a light gray. Save that, and you can see it resets everything very nicely, and you can begin to style it. Okay, so I'm going to go inside my header, and I'm going to say for the header class I just want a background color of 333, like that. Let's see that. Okay, and then let me have a padding of 20 pixels all around, and then I'm going to go inside my navbar class in the header, and I'm going to be typing the list items so that I can display them as flex. I'm going to say display flex, like that, which will place them in raw form, like that, and I'm going to say align item center and justify content center. And then to space them out, I'm going to target this once again and target the actual list items, and I'm going to say margin of 0 on the top and bottom and 20 pixels on the left and right. And just so that they don't go out of the width of the window, I'm going to say flex wrap of wrap, so that when they reach the end they can automatically go to the next line. Okay, like that. Let's save that, and you can see this is what I meant actually. So in order to change the color for this, I'm going to target the anchor tags inside the list item, so I'm going to say A, and I'm going to change the color to white, like that. Let me reduce this to 10. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is actually deal with this showcase, and I've just remembered something, because the showcase class and the section 4 class are going to have basically the same styling. I want to do the same thing to them, so I'm going to give this a class of showcase, and I forgot to put this inside a div with a class of overlay, like that, so that they can this can use the same style that I'm going to use for the showcase, and I don't have to do the same thing twice. So for the showcase class, I'm going to target the showcase, and I'm going to say give it a height of 750 pixels, which is almost 100 viewport heights for my screen. And then I'm going to set the background to URL, and I'm going to be targeting my image one, like that. Save that. Let me place it on a bigger screen so you can see what's happening. As you can see, the image is repeating once it reaches once it covers the width that it can, then it begins to repeat again. So I don't want to have this. Okay, and I have to change this color. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to style this a bit more, and I'm going to say background repeat, and I want it to no repeat, and then I want the background position, I want it to be centered, so center position, like that. And then I want the background size, I want to set that to cover, so that it always covers 100% of the width, like that. As you can see, it's looking much better. Now if you don't want to do this, there's a shorthand property that you can use, and you can just go inside this background property and you can say no repeat, like that, and you can say center / cover, and this will apply the same styles that we have right there. So it's all about preference if you want to do this or if you want to do this. I find this one to be much shorter and much easier to remember. Okay, so what you'll notice is that if I scroll down, you'll find this image at the bottom as well, but we're going to change only the image. The reason why I did this is because you see this section is basically the same as this section, so I didn't want to do the same thing twice. I remembered something. I want this header to scroll with me as I scroll down, so let me just fix that, and I'm going to go back to the header, and I'm going to say position, set that to fixed, and you'll notice it will come to the left, like that. If you want to fix that, just say width of 100%, like that. So now it scrolls as you scroll. Okay, so let me deal with something else. Let me say we're going to make this a parallax effect, but I don't want, because I'm building a mobile first, I don't want the parallax effect on mobile screens, so I'm going to add a media query where we'll fix that for bigger widths, so don't worry about that. So next we want to do is actually want to grab this text that is above right there, and I want to place it to the center. So I'm going to say for my showcase class and for my overlay, I want to have a height of 750 pixels as well. And then I'm going to say display flex, align item center, and justify content center, which will bring the text to the middle like that. And I don't want them to go in raw form, so I'm going to say flex direction. Oops. Flex direction, set that to column like that. And then let me change the text color to white so you can actually see it. And then I'm going to text align center like that. And let me put global styling of the paragraphs and set the line height for every paragraph to be 1.6 like that, so that they can separate out a bit. And then I'm going to add another global style for the heading, so I'm going to target my H1, H2, H3 and H4, and I'm going to say let me have a margin bottom for all of them to be 20 pixels like so. And then I'm going to go inside my overlay class for the showcase, and I'm going to target my H1 and set that to a font size of 36 pixels. It can be bigger like that. And then I'm going to add a background color on the overlay, a darker color, so that this text can be more readable. So now I'm going to say background color to RGBA, RGBA 000 and 0.5, so a transparent black like that, which is more readable. Let me make this 0.3 like that. That's much better, and you can see the same style will apply for this. So we're only going to change this image, so don't worry about that. And we are done with this, so we are going to style our blog next. So I'm going to place a comment and say blog. So it has a class of blog post, so I'm going to target this blog post and the H2, and I'm going to just center the H2. So I'm going to say blog dash posts like that, and I want a padding all around, first of all, of 50 pixels on the top and bottom and 20 pixels on the left and right. And then let me target my blog post for the H2 and just text align center, and let's save that. Let's see that. As you can see now, it goes away from the margin of the window. So the next thing I want to do is target these individual divs inside. Okay, and then I can add some separation on them, and then I can add a slightly darker background color so that they can be more prominent from the background color of the body. So I'm going to say the blog posts, and I want the class of cards like that. I want the class of cards, and I want the divs inside the cards, so I can add the margin on each one of them. So I'm going to say margin of let me see 10 pixels on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right, which will separate them just a bit. Let me add a background color so that you can see what we are styling. So background color of EEE like so. Is that really visible? Not so much. Let me make it a bit darker, so just about there. That's much better. Let me add some padding inside of 20 pixels so that they can move away from the edge of the cards like that. And let me add a border radius of 5 pixels like so. Let me increase this margin to 20 like that. That's much better. And now let me target these headings so that I can make them just a bit bigger, so that they're not the same size as the paragraphs. So they are H4s, so I'm just going to grab this and target the H4s inside, set the font size to 24 pixels, much better. And then the next thing I want to do is actually grab the UL so that I can display flex on them. So let me see where they are. They're just ULs like that, so I'm just going to paste that and target the ULs and say display flex like so. And then we want to space them out a bit, so let me just add a margin on the top of the ULs like that, so that they can move away from the paragraph of 20 pixels like that. And then we grab the list items to separate them. So for the LI, let me say margin of 0 on the top and 20 pixels on the left and right. Too much. 10 pixels. 10, not 20. Okay, that's looking much better. Let me see if I can justify content to the what's it called, flex end. Let me see if that will work. Like, yeah, that's much better. I think I like this type of alignment much better. Okay, so the next thing that we do is, let me actually increase this font size so that it's bigger than this, or I can reduce this font size. Let me make this 20 like that, and then I can make the H2 a bigger font size, let's say 30 pixels like that. That's much better. That is much better. Okay, on hover, I want this to have some kind of indication that you are reading them. So I'm going to have a hover effect on the divs. So I'm going to grab this, and then I'm going to say for the hover state, let me have a box shadow of 0, 5 pixels, 20 pixels, and RGBA, just the same one, but 0.5. Let's see. Yeah, that's nice. That is nice. So let me just add a transition effect so that it doesn't pop in. So transition the box shadow by 0.2 seconds like that. Let's see that. Yep, that's much better. A smoother transition. Let me change this back to 0.3. Yeah, that's much better. That is much better. Okay, so we're going to deal with our newsletter section next, and you can say, add another comment and say newsletter like that, and it has a class of, let me confirm this, it has a class of newsletter. Okay, so the newsletter, and I want to grab the H3. Let me make this into an H2 so that it can rhyme with the one on top, this one. So I'm going to grab the H2, set the font size to 30 pixels as well, and just text align center like that. And then we'll say, let's grab the form. Actually, let me add some padding on the newsletter. So for the newsletter, let me add a padding of let's see, 0 on the top, 20 pixels on the left and right, and 50 pixels on the bottom. The reason why I didn't add 50 pixels on the top is because it will increase this by if you remember, we placed 50 pixels on the bottom for this. So if I place 50 pixels on the top, it will increase it to 100 pixels, which I don't want. I want some kind of uniformity for each one of them. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is grab our form, which is inside the newsletter class, and it has a class of form like that. And I'm going to say display flex, align item center, justify content center, and set the flex direction to column like that, and it's looking nice. And then I'm just going to grab this class and target the input as well as the subscribe button. So I'm going to say for the input, and then for the button, let's have a width of 70 viewport widths for each one of them. Let's have a padding of 12 pixels. Let's have a margin of 10 pixels on the top and bottom, and 0 on the left and right. Let's have a border of 2 pixels solid and the dark gray that we've been using. And then let's have a font family of inherit. And then let's say, what else? Let's save that. Let's see how it looks first. Like that. Let's add a border radius, so border radius of 5 pixels all round. And then let me reduce this to 5 pixels. Okay, it's looking nice. So let me grab the button so I can style it further. And I'm going to say for the button, let me have a background color of the dark gray, and let me have a text color of white. And then let's say cursor pointer. And then for the hover effect, So for the hover state, I'm going to say let the background color change to transparent, if I can spell it, and then the text color will be the dark gray, like that. Let's move it down actually, and let's add a transition effect on the background color of 0.2 seconds as well, like that, and that's looking nice. Okay, that is looking nice. So let me change this text to uppercase. So I'm going to say text transform to uppercase, like that, and let me add a letter spacing of 1 pixels, like that. That's much better. That is much better. Okay, so that will be it for our newsletter section. And then actually I've just remembered, so let me change the headings to the dark gray color. Yeah, let me change the headings to the dark gray color. So let me go to the top where I declared my headings, like that, and I'm going to set the color to 333, like that. Let me see if it has changed anything. We're going to change this. So we're going to go inside the showcase class to change this color to white. So for the overlay H1, I'm going to set the color to white. So the reason why this is possible, even though we declared it at the top on the headings to have a color of 333, is because the more to the bottom you are on the style sheet, the more specificity that you have. That's why this is possible, and yet for this color it doesn't still change. I hope that is clearly understood. And then let's deal with this. Okay, let's deal with this. Change the image. So I'm just going to go to my showcase class and grab this. I'm going to grab this and then go to my section -4 and 45, and I'm going to say for the section -4 I want just to paste this in and change this to image 2. Let's see that, and you can see the image changes. Very nice, very nice. Okay, actually let me see if it will take the same styles. No. Okay, so let's change our heading here. Let me see what heading it was. On the H4 it was an H2. So I'm going to grab the section 4. I'm going to grab the H2, set the color to white, and set the font size to 36 pixels, like at the showcase, like so. And that will be it for this. You see the benefit of reusing classes. It's very nice, very convenient. And then now let's deal with our footer. Okay, so footer, and I'm going to say for the footer, let me display flex and flex direction of column, because we're on a smaller screen, so I want them to go down, then align item center and justify content center, like that. Actually I don't want that. Let me remove this too. Let me text align center, like that. And then I want to add a margin on each one of the ULs. So I'm going to say for the footer, for the ULs, let me have a margin of 20 pixels on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right, like that. And then let me add a background color on the footer. So I'm going to say background color to our dark 333. I'm now realizing I should have placed this inside a variable because I'm using it very much, like so. And then I can target the list items. So for the footer, UL and LIs, I also want to have a margin on each one of them. So I'm going to say margin of 10 pixels on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. And then of course change this text color to white. So I'm going to grab this, like that, and target the anchor tags and say the color to white, like that. And it's looking very nice, very nice. Okay, so that will be it for our mobile screen, but I want to change this to display as a row. Okay, so we can do that by targeting the last UL. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to paste it there, and I'm going to say, actually let me remove this. So I'm going to say for the UL, and I want the last child. As you can see, we have, how many do we have on the footer? We have 1 2 3 4. So the last child will be this one, which has our social icons. So you can do that, and then you can say flex direction to row, because we already placed it. Where was it? we actually need to display flex here because I didn't display flex on the ULs like that. Okay, and we actually don't need this now because it automatically displays it as a row. So in order to center it, I'm just going to say align item center and just click and center like that, and then space them out a bit. So I'm going to grab this, paste it down, and I'm going to target the list items, and I'm going to say margin of 10 pixels, no, of 0 and 10 pixels like that. And voila, that looks much better. This looks much better. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do, I've just realized this looks a bit out of place. Let me see if I can fix that. Let me just grab this and just move it down to there like that. This looks much better. Okay, okay, so what do we do now? So what we need to do now is begin to scale it up, and let me add another blog post for this so that they can be 4. Okay, they can be 4. So let me go back here, copy this down. Where does this end? Right there. Copy that and paste it down as the 4th one like that. The reason why I'm doing that is because on bigger screens I don't want them to go 1, 2, then 3 in the middle. I want them to go all the way to the bottom. So let's begin to scale it up, sorry, and we're going to scale it up from 500 pixels. So I'm going to say at media with a mean width of 500 pixels. I want to target the showcase class, and I want the background attachment to fixed. The reason I'm doing this is so that the image can stay put as we scroll down, because as you can see it doesn't do that currently. So once I save that, you'll notice that this happens like that, and that's the parallax effect that we want. And you'll notice that it also applies to the bottom. As you can see, it's looking very nice, very nice. Let me increase this font size. So I'm going to target the header. I want the ULLI, no, so what am I doing? It's inside the showcase. It's inside the showcase, and it's called showcase, and it's called overlay, and it's an H1. Increase this font size to, actually no, this is for 500 pixels. What am I doing? 500 pixels about there. So we don't need to do this, actually. We don't need to do that, and we don't need to add anything else. So let me increase it to 768 pixels, where we can begin to style everything much better. So I'm going to copy this, paste it down, change this to 768 pixels, remove this, and I'm going to target the showcase, the overlay, and the H1. Increase this font size to 64 pixels like that, and then we can target the paragraph as well. So actually, let me just place it as a global style so that I can just do it once. So for the paragraph, I want to have a font size of 18 pixels like that, which will increase that and increase that as well. And then we are going to change our blog post to now display as a grid of 2 items each. So I can go inside the blog post, and it was inside the cards class, and I'm going to say display grid with grid template columns repeating 2 and 1 fractional each like that. Okay, and then I want to remove this margin before I add a grid gap, so that it doesn't have such a great margin on each one of them. So I'm going to say div, and I just want to remove the margin of 0 like that, paste it like that, and then let's add a grid gap here of 40 pixels so that they can be uniform, each one of them like that. That looks much better. Let me increase the padding of the newsletter so that it doesn't look so close to this. So I'm going to say for the newsletter, I want I want the padding to be 50 pixels all around like that. And then let's deal with this paragraph. It was inside the section 4. So for the section -4, I want the paragraph, and I want to set the max width to 500 pixels, and then I'm going to say margin of 0 like that, so that it's limited. It's much easier to read than when it goes end to end. And then let's deal with our footer. So I'm going to grab the footer and I'm going to say display flex. What did I do on the top? For the footer, display flex direction column. So I'm going to just grab this and change this to flex direction row, like that. Change to flex direction row, which will place it like that. And then I can say text align initial, so that it's no longer to the center. So text align initial, like that. And then I can say align item center and justify content to the center, like that. Let me move this down. And then I can target the ULs so that I can separate them like that, because these are all ULs. So I can go inside the footer and the ULs, and I'm going to say margin of 0 on the top and bottom and 20 pixels on the left and right, which will separate them like that. Let me add a padding on the footer. So I'm going to say padding of 50 pixels on the footer all around, like that. And this is much better, much better. Okay, so let's continue to scale it up. Let's see where it all goes awry. And we're going to change our blog post, and then we're going to reduce the width for these. So for the blog post, let me say for a media and a mean width of about 1200 pixels. I want the blog post and I want the cards, and I want them to display as 3 fractional columns for each, like that. And then actually I'm now rethinking this. Let me just remove it. Let me just remove it. Where does it end? Right there. So just remove this. Yeah, I think this is much better. Okay, let's deal with our input and our button. So I'm going to say inside the newsletter there is a form and an input, like that. And then we're also going to grab the button, and I'm going to reduce the width to 50 viewport widths, so it's just a bit smaller, like that, and it doesn't take up too much space. And then I'm going to increase the width for this to about 600 or 700 pixels. So let me do that, and I'm going to say for the section for class, I want the paragraph, and I want the paragraph to have a max width of 600 pixels. Let's try 700 first. Yeah, 700 is okay. And then let me actually change this. Let me change this to space between, like that, which will do that. And then we can remove this. Can remove that, like that. Okay, looking much better. And actually I think this will even scale it up for bigger screens. I think this is much better. Take note that my screen is 1600 pixels, so past 1600 pixels this might look a bit out of place, so you might need to limit it just a bit more. Okay, let's see, what else do you need to change? I actually think that will be it. As you can see, we have used the parallax effect for each one of these images. We have placed our blog posts, we have placed our newsletter section. I haven't done the toggle because there's nothing really to toggle, but then again let me do something for this newsletter, because I don't want it to reload the page when you submit it. So inside my main.js file, I'm going to grab the form. So const form equals to document dot get element by id, and we give it an id of form, like that. So I'm going to say for the form, I'm going to add an event listener and a listening for the submit event on the form, and we're going to target the synthetic event e, like that. And we're going to say e.prevent default, which will prevent the default behavior of reloading the page, like that. And that will be it. Let me just see if I remember to link my, okay, yeah, I linked it. Okay, it's fine. So I think that will be it. We have completed the 7 days 7 projects challenge. Let me increase the height for this so that it can go all the way to the bottom. So for the showcase class, I'm going to grab this, increase the height to 780 pixels. Okay, it doesn't work. 800 pixels. like that, so that it can just cover my whole screen, which is much better because technically this is going to be the thumbnail. Okay, so we have completed the 7 days 7 projects challenge. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. I know this is a long video, but we technically did everything that we did for the past 7 days, and it's looking very nice. It's looking very nice. So I hope by doing this that you realize that websites are just basically made of components, and that's why React is so popular, because everything is a component. And as you can see, we used reusable classes. We created a header, a blog post section, and we can do a bit more on this by adding a click event so that it actually takes you to the actual blog post. But we use dummy text here, and I don't want to create so many pages to overwhelm anyone. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.